What does it take to be a Shen Yun dancer?
Well, you will soon find out because you're in for a treat. This is a conversation I had with Angela. She's an ex-member of Falun Gong. Please go and follow her. I will leave her things in the description. Enjoy it. It's a long talk. We had 3 episodes. I combined them into one video. So, all about Falun Gong. Enjoy the video. So, thank you for coming and wanting to tell your story. I am recording this, you know that, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, just to make sure. So if there's anything that you don't want to question or don't want to answer, just say so, right? Because obviously I don't know you very well, and obviously there might be things that you just don't feel comfortable in. So then just don't answer it, and
Sure.
we can just cut things out and everything. That's not a problem.
All right. Sure.
So I saw you on TikTok with a very, very interesting story of people I sometimes see nearby our Chinatown protesting, but I never actually spoken with any of them. Yeah, I spoken with one, but just a couple of words. But so to me, it is still not really clear what it all is. And I think a lot of people are not really clear about what it is, because when I talk with a lot of other people, they say, it's just a group who's doing health things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But those are mainly people not out of the Chinese community. If it is from the Chinese community, they have some other things to say. But Western people, yeah, often they say, why are they doing this to these people? They're just a group of nice people. They're doing something like Tai Chi or something. So can you tell us exactly what is it portraying, and what is it in real? What is more the underlying thing? Because it looks like it got split in certain ways. Like, to me, it looks like it got something like with the Qigong and everything, right? For health benefit. And it got something also which is very political.
Yeah.
And also something like religious wise. So it almost is like three separate components in one thing. So
Yeah, it's all really one big thing that has many different factors to it. So it's on the surface, of course, it is a Qigong meditation practice that is based in Taoism and Buddhism, but after it got banned in China for being a cult, since it has practices of like not taking medicine, encouraging its members to not take medicine and only believe in the leader of the cult, Master Li is what we called him. They started to ban it in China. What I've heard from some Chinese netizens is that while Falun Gong was growing in China initially in the 1990s, Master Li encouraged practitioners to do some crazy things like set themselves on fire and cut holes in their stomachs to see if they had like a magical wheel in there. So yeah, that was our symbol, a magical wheel that could heal us of illnesses.
yeah, it's kind of a swastika, right?
Well, the symbol itself does look like a swastika, but it's supposed to be derivative of Buddhism. So it was actually a symbol from Buddhism, and they meant to use that symbol. It just happens to look like a swastika.
Yeah. So and from one of your videos that I was watching, the belief is it is in your stomach.
Yeah.
Like physically there.
Yeah, well, it's in another dimension. Right. So it's still physically there, it's just not visible to the human eye.
Okay, yeah. So how do you get into that? How do people get into it? My understanding is that you were born in it.
Yeah, well, I wasn't born in it actually, but my mom got really sick when I was really little, and she went to many hospitals to try to get her illness treated, but none of the hospitals could tell her what was wrong with her body and give her an actual diagnosis. So she started practicing Falun Gong as a recommendation from a relative, and she felt better eventually. And she thought it was because of this, like practicing Falun Gong. So what I know is that many of the people in the community I was in, at least, joined Falun Gong because they or someone that they knew got better after practicing Falun Gong when they had an illness.
Okay, and so she went on her own. She was actually looking for something to help her with her health issues, and then she came into contact with that.
That's right.
And how is the process going further? Because it is one thing, okay, it makes me feel better, but to get really deep into the rest of it, which got the religious part and the political part, is something else, right? Like,
Well, yeah, well, I
so-
think if it's like for people who personally experienced like the healing process of Falun Gong, they themselves are already very deep into it because they believe that this saved their life. So they were in a very desperate place and they somehow got saved because of it. So now they are fully committed to this faith because they believe that they are alive because of this faith. And so they will read all the books, all of Master Lee's lectures. And once you start reading the lectures, you realize that there are a lot of requirements to be a good practitioner of Falun Gong. It's not just the meditation, even though that takes up a lot of time throughout our day, at least like 3 hours of meditating every day.
oh, wow.
It's also volunteering to spread the word about Falun Gong. So we believe that when people meditate and practice Falun Gong, the end goal is enlightenment or becoming a god yourself. So that means getting rid of worldly desires and things like that, but also saving other people, saving other people.
Oh, that
So
sounds a lot like Buddhism, like Mahayana Buddhism. I'm a Mahayana Buddhist, so a lot of things seem to, yeah, just not to work.
yeah, yeah,
Or telling people to join. That's not what we do. The people need to come to you themselves.
yeah,
We're not allowed to ask people. But yeah,
yeah.
uh, continue, please. Sorry, I
Yeah,
interrupt.
no, no, no.
I'm
That's
very bad.
no, 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 that's good. That's good. Yeah, I understand that like religion does have its practices in having people join their practices as well. But what Falun Gong members think is that Falun Gong members themselves are gods coming down to Earth to save all of humanity.
Wait,
And
wait. Sorry to interrupt you. The
yeah,
members themselves think they are God.
yeah, they are gods, they just don't remember.
Ah, right. But so they actually think like maybe they're like in a form like a reincarnation of a god.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought they thought they wanted to get to become a god, and that the Master Lee, he was right, that he
Yeah.
was the god of all of them.
Yeah, so he's the leader of the gods.
Oh,
So
he's
every member who
the top
joins,
god, the top
yeah, the
G,
top
top
god.
G,
That's
top G.
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
All
yeah. The
right.
members themselves are actually gods who have forgotten, but are now stuck in the human world, and so they need to get rid of their own desires in order to become a god again.
Right.
So
Now I
yeah,
understand.
yeah. And so the teachings say that if you like get people to quit the Communist Party, or if you get people to watch Shen Yun or read the Epoch Times, then you are saving them and they will be eventually a part of your heavenly kingdom. So
Oh,
they will be
that's
regular citizens of your heavenly kingdom and you are the king in that heavenly kingdom.
Right. I think there is where the big split between Buddhism and Falun Gong is. Like,
Yeah.
Buddhism doesn't tell you to quit any party, or yeah, that's yeah. It's interesting that all of a sudden something which is not like spiritual at all says, okay, yeah, just tell people to quit that or whatever, and then it will be fine. You will be good. Yeah, spiritual wise, it would be maybe a different story, but political parties are everything but spiritual.
Yeah.
Is but so the this so you have to practice every single day. It's just meditation, but also promotion, actually,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
So, well, yeah,
is
you're
there any
encouraged.
other practice that
Any
they
other
have to do?
practice?
Because somehow I know from Buddhism, when we practice, I'm not practicing anymore, but yeah, just sometimes, but mostly I'm lazy. But we tend to repeat a lot of things uh, to brainwash ourselves. I call it straight out brainwashing to get the negative out and put a positive in. So put a positive mindset in. That's why we recite 8 verses all of the time and meditate
Mhm.
with a Buddha, sending it into your body, etc. So how do you also have this kind of a practice, and what does it evolve if it has?
Yeah, so we read the teachings of Master Lee. He has the main book, which is Falun, or the Turning Wheel, translated into English. And so we're supposed to read that every day as well. We also have group sharings. So that's kind of like a church gathering, Bible reading. So all the members within a certain area will go to a place to read it together and discuss their findings in their own lives.
Right. Is there also a kind of like the community itself is looking for you, like, hey, we have to do this today, or is it like voluntarily, like, well, you do whenever it is that you want?
Yeah, it's
Uh,
mostly voluntarily. You do it yourself, but of course there is a lot of judgment in the within the community if you are not doing enough. Yeah.
how do the people act in the rest of the world, like outside of the community? How do they interact with people, or is there no interaction at all, or
Oh
just the
yeah.
minimum? Like, I mean, I never see them in a bar or something like.
Oh, well, yeah.
I've never seen them in a restaurant here in Chinatown. So, or, I hardly see them anywhere interacting with people other than them doing their little protest.
Oh yeah, like when they're not doing the protests and, promoting Shen Yun and all those things, they are just regular people. They have regular jobs and they interact mostly normally with other people in society. It's just they happen to have very extreme views when it comes to politics, spiritual belief, etc.
So I heard that the people are not allowed to take the medicine. Uh, how does it work? Because if people really get sick, what are they doing?
Yeah, so it's not that they're not allowed to take medicine. It's worded as you can take medicine if you don't want to be a good practitioner. So it's a kind of like a type of manipulation to get people to put
Uh,
their entire faith into Falun Gong and the practices. So usually for normal people like me who are not in Shen Yun, if we have injuries, like if I break my arm, of course I will go to a hospital. But if I get a cold, I am told that this is just a test that I need to pass. Like it's because of karma. And if I go to the doctor and get medicine and treat this karma, then I will have to pass this test again.
Oh, wow. That's
So taking medicine is basically failing your test.
okay.
So yeah, of course, people with like very minor symptoms like fevers, stomach aches, headaches will just push through it and hope that after a while their karma will be finished for this test and they can go about their lives normally. And so they continue to ignore symptoms without going to the doctor or getting any medical treatment. And that eventually will lead to some people like getting bigger illnesses like cancer when it's too late, you know?
Yeah, that's a shame because that's not actually how karma should work, at least not how I studied it. It's, it is what we believe. It is your karma to get sick, but it's also your karma to get help. Right?
Right.
It's not like,
Yeah.
yes, you are burning bad karma because you are sick. It doesn't mean you need to stay sick or not take a medicine or help from other people to, that's also a part of your karma.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a difference because, I can clearly see there are real influences of Buddhism. What I find most interesting is that, yes, certain things they're using like almost similar, and then all of a sudden you have these extreme things like the politics, what comes inside, and not taking medicine, pushing through because your karma, that's very, very extreme. Uh,
Yeah.
it's confusing. I don't know where it comes from. Um, so how does uh, Master Lee, let's just call him respectfully, uh, how does he? Where did he get his knowledge from? Because how is he translating it to you guys, or is he saying like, yes, I was just born a god and unlike you guys because I did not forget to be God, so I'm already there? Or how does it work? The text and everything? How?
Yeah, he just says that he came to save everyone. So he of course knows that he is a god. He claims to have practiced Qigong for many, many years. So that is how he gets a lot of his powers. But of course, he's also the creator of the universe. So he has
Oh,
infinite power.
that's very interesting. So uh, that is almost like a real religion. Like not even that, but it's like you're literally talking to God.
Yeah,
That
that's right.
would work for Christians. It would be like, oh, forget about Jesus. We already
Yeah,
have God. Like, uh,
yeah.
how 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 do people believe that? I don't understand. Like, I mean, he seems like a normal human being.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't met him in real life, but I mean, I only seen pictures, but it seems like a normal being. Obviously, I also don't know if there are gods or how a god would look like, but
Yeah.
to me, he seems quite normal, like every other person. So why do people think that he is a god?
Well, he claims that he looks like a normal person because he wants to blend in with society.
Uh,
His explanation is that if he actually looked like a god, then everybody would want to join Falun Gong and there would be no test of faith. So the true believers will believe that he is a god even in his normal human state.
right, but that's quite awkward because you need to go out and enlighten people.
Yeah.
But if he would expose himself as a god, then everybody would come and he could enlighten them all.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's very contradictory.
yeah. Uh, and so I also heard, so we have determined that he supposed to be a god
Yeah.
in this community, right? I don't want to get other people getting on my neck. What is the story about these aliens?
Oh, the aliens. Yeah. So he believes that aliens have already taken over Earth using technology, like the phone, computers, modern technology are all alien inventions used to take over the human mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some people that believe that. I think it's not only contributed to Falun Gong members, but I think there's also some other people that have this kind of thing that it has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never met an alien. I can say if they have.
Yeah. But what we believed was that every god had their own kingdom. And so Jesus, of course, had his own kingdom as well. And so maybe perhaps Falun Gong practitioners are somehow linked to Jesus as well.
Are like a kingdom's neighbors or something.
Yeah.
Like they have
Something
theirs
like,
and you have yours, and
yeah.
yeah. All right. Um, uh, Shen Yun, that's a very big thing. That's very growing also in Europe. Can you tell
Mhm.
us about it? What it actually
Yes.
is and what it does? And
Yeah, so Shen Yun is a dance group that was made in 2006, 2007, and initially it was made by Falun Gong practitioners to talk about the persecution of Falun Gong members in China. And it was a very small production with very minimal costume design and backgrounds. But eventually, Master Lee saw this as an opportunity, and so he started to run it as the art director. And so that caused a lot of practitioners from all over the country and the world to start signing their kids up for dance classes so that they could be a part of Shen Yun, to be dancers and musicians there. And so by the time I was 16, they had around 5 productions that were touring the country and the world at the same time. And many people think that Shen Yun is made by Falun Gong in as a means to push Falun Gong as a belief, when really they're trying to raise more awareness about the Chinese government and talk about the persecution that's happening. It's more to talk shit about the Chinese government, actually.
yes, I've heard a little bit about it. I've never went to any thing, but so I cannot tell for myself out of experience. But what sort of things are they doing, and how does it come about? Because I heard there's a lot of process in hiring the artist and everything. How does that uh, go about?
Yeah, so there are auditions for the dancers. They're usually very young, like 11 to up to 18 years old when they're training. And so when I was auditioning, the requirement was that you had to be a certain height and you had to be flexible enough. So these are kids with almost no dance training whatsoever going into Shen Yun, thinking that it is an honor to be working near Master Lee. And so when they go in, as far as I've heard from some ex-Shen Yun dancers, they are essentially abused. They're not allowed to go to the hospital sometimes to when they get injuries like broken legs and ankles and arms, things like that. And they are made to just meditate. The teachers also, of course, beat some of the dancers, and they're not allowed to have access to internet or very limited. They have their own like limited Shen Yun phone that they use that doesn't allow them to see like outside information.
Oh, how wow! So when you are starting as a dancer, you're not allowed to have your own phone.
No.
But do you get to get home, or are you staying in a different place special for dancers? How?
Yeah, so all the dancers and musicians for Shen Yun are in New York, and they are in a compound called Dragon Springs. And that's where all the Shen Yun dancers live, practice, and at least for 6 months. And then the rest of the time they are on tour.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. That's almost like you do nothing else than just that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you also mentioned when they break a leg or something, they're not allowed to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
But
So,
how do
yeah,
they
it
heal?
usually they don't. They just have to sit with it, sit with the pain for many, many days. Yeah, they are told to meditate and just muscle through
That's
it.
that's not going to help with broken bones. I can tell you
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's did ever get police involved because of these kind of things? Because I can imagine that there probably will have been times that maybe one of the members got really injured really that bad, like, and if you don't go to the doctor, it might turn out really, really so bad that you are forced to go to the doctor.
Yeah, if it's very, very severe, some instances they will have the person go to the hospital. Like there was a boy who broke his knees and he physically could not stand up and you could just hear the crack of the bones.
Oh.
Yeah, that's when like the Master Lee's wife actually had to say he needs to go to the hospital. But those instances are very rare.
So it happens quite often. I mean, you talk about it like it's so casual, like, oh yeah, just people just break their legs while practicing. So it happens a lot.
Yeah,
Is that
so yeah, they've said that almost every single one of the dancers have some kind of minor injury, like torn ligaments and like muscle problems, things like that.
that's them very bad in how they practice.
Yeah.
That's quite yeah, abusive, I would
Yeah.
say. I also saw a video of you, and there you were talking about they were also forced into marriage.
Yeah. Well,
Mm.
it's like a kind of arranged marriage situation going on there. So I have a source linked in the bio of my TikTok account talking about how since they have like a lot of male dancers and female dancers, the Master Lee and his wife will basically promise the male dancers one of the female dancers or
Oh,
someone within the group. And since everyone believes that Master Lee is the creator of the universe and the creator of our destinies, he will say, "Oh, you should marry this boy," to the girl. And of course, she will believe him because he created her destiny. And if he says, "You should marry him," then I guess I will marry him. And that's how it works.
right. But I also saw that they were pretty young when they
Yeah.
get into Shen Yun. So do they marry at that age, or is it at a
Well,
later age that they marry? Or I
no,
don't.
no. Actually, the dating age is 25 for females and 27 for male dancers.
Ah, okay. Because there were a lot of children, right? I thought maybe those children were being married off to other people. So,
No,
right.
no, no. No.
Okay. I was a little bit afraid because I saw the video. So uh, the story about aliens, we already had that, right? I
Yeah,
have a question for myself.
sure.
Uh, I heard a lot of things about that. This Master Lee does not like uh, marriage between different ethnicities.
Oh, actually, he's not opposed to it. This is rumored from some Shen Yun dancers. He seems to like the mixed race dancers a lot more than the like pure Chinese dancers. But what his teachings say is that interracial couples or interracial like mixed people of mixed race, don't have a specific kingdom because
Yeah.
alongside like every god has their own kingdom, every race also has their own like world. So people of mixed race do not have a place to go to.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Where do I go now?
Yeah, so they're kind of like the homeless people of heaven. And he talks about them being like the creation of aliens as well. So aliens sort of bioengineered them to confuse people and the gods.
So I am bioengineered by an alien
Yeah,
to confuse you.
yeah.
Am I confusing?
I don't think so.
I do have to do my job better. That's very interesting because I never knew that. I only heard a rumor about it. I've never really read any text of Shen Yun, so I can't tell. But yeah, it was quite interesting to understand now where I come from. I always felt a little bit different than other humans, but now I know that aliens made me. That all makes sense.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Uh, Let me see. So, you were in that. So you always say very specifically the cult. That's something where they
Yeah.
really notice, right? When you were saying, yeah, Falun Gong, the cult. It's like, don't
Yeah.
forget that it's a cult. Uh,
Yeah.
what is it that you say it makes it a cult as opposed to a religion or something else, whatever it is?
Yeah, well, that's a little bit difficult because there are people who argue that all religions are a cult
Yeah,
if
but
as long as you
that's
believe
for
it
them. That's for them. It's
extreme
nothing
enough.
to do with you.
Yeah. But I think that it's a cult because one, have you seen the beliefs? We believe that a Chinese man who lives in New York is the creator of the universe and that aliens have taken over Earth using modern technology. And that also the fact that it's actively harming many people. I was in the cult from ages 5 to 23, and during that time, I watched many young, healthy people die from illnesses that could have been treated if they had gotten the help sooner. I had many friends who lost their fathers and mothers at very early ages, and I thought that that was normal, but it wasn't a very big community. It was probably like 100 people at most, but we lost many, many people in a very short span of time. And that has to do with the fact that we don't take medicine or trust doctors. Yeah. Especially during COVID too. It was a very messy period. People didn't believe in vaccines
Mhm.
or masks, but they still wanted to go out and spread the truth about Falun Gong. And that led to a lot of deaths as well.
Yeah. How did it come to you about um, that you started to change because you actually grew up there? Is my understanding right? Your entire youth was in Falun Gong.
Yeah.
So you actually were you also isolated in more isolated way, or were you also doing things besides, or were you always with members, or how does it go as a kid?
Yeah, so I still went to school like a normal kid. So at home, I would be like hit with all this indoctrination, about Falun Gong, and then I would go to school and hear about different perspectives. So it was a really long battle of like doubting and then being gaslighted into believing in it and then doubting again. And it was a long process. Eventually, because of all the things that I was hearing that didn't align with my own morals, like the interracial thing, and also just the amount of homophobia that was going on within the cult itself,
Oh, there's
made me
two?
realize, yeah, yeah, very strong homophobia. Yeah, it made me realize that maybe we weren't exactly a very morally righteous group at the very least. And I didn't want to spend the rest of my life serving something that I didn't believe in 100%. So I decided to cut ties and move away and stop reading the books, stop doing the exercising. So after I was able to distance myself from it for a while, I realized exactly how extreme those beliefs were.
Yeah, I can imagine, because if you're constantly in it, then it is just a normal thing of life. But once
Yeah.
you're getting out for a while, then you're looking from the outside in, then it looks all of a sudden a little bit different than it used to be when you're inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you leave? I mean, your parents still are there. How do you do that? I mean,
Well,
it sounds like I'm accusing you, like, but I don't mean
yeah,
it like that. But
no,
I
it's
mean,
okay.
it must be very difficult. It sounds like it's a very close-knit community, with a lot of peer pressure, if I can say that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, if the daughter leaves, then will there be a lot of pressure on the family or from the other members? Like, what is your daughter doing?
Yeah. Um, I
And
think,
and how do you process it for yourself? Sorry. Yeah, continue.
oh yeah, no
Yeah.
problems. Yeah. It wasn't very difficult to leave physically, um, because, well, they're not going to pressure me into staying. But it was a little bit difficult to come to terms with the fact that my parents will always believe in it. Um, and so it's a little bit difficult to communicate with them that I don't believe in it. And I think that what they're doing has been wrong this whole time. I don't think the members in the community would pressure my parents into having me come back, but there would be a lot of shame around me leaving. I stayed for a very long time because there have been kids of practitioners who decided that they didn't want to practice any further. And that to the parents is like saying that I'm going to kill myself soon because they believe that if you benefited from Falun Gong and you don't give back, then you are essentially committing a big sin. You will have so much karma from taking from Falun Gong and not giving back, and you will eventually go to hell or something like that. Something very bad will happen to you.
Well, that's quite a bit of emotional blackmail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, of course, parents believe that, oh, if their kid is not part of Falun Gong anymore, but oh, Master Lee has laid out this destiny for you, and it's such a good destiny, and you reject it, you're essentially dead to them.
And they will also never talk to you anymore, or will they still try from time to time, like, come and watch some Shen Yun with us,
Yeah,
have some
yeah. Of
tickets,
course.
bring your friends?
Oh, yeah, of course. They'll try to like, of course. Well, I think most parents will still talk to their kids, but there's a lot of disappointment surrounding it and like a lot of sadness. Like imagine seeing someone who is like you think is hurting themselves constantly and you feel a sense of helplessness for them. That's how the parents think when they see their kids leave Falun Gong.
But I think the kids also see their parents at that moment after they've left in the same way.
Yeah,
So it goes
definitely.
both ways, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It must be really, really hard. How do you people who leave process that? Because I mean, I can understand if you then when you were at home, you all talk about Falun Gong things, or are there also just other things like, hey, how was ice skating or whatever it is that you did when you were a kid? Is there also other things, or is it just like mainly the main thing in the house is practicing or other things to do with Falun Gong?
It's, of course, we talk about other things like our jobs and school, hobbies, things like that, but we will always relate it back to Falun Gong. Like if I say someone at school was being mean to me, my mom will think, "Oh, well, what do you think you did to make them say that to you? You have to cultivate yourself. You have to get rid of your karma. Maybe you were bad to them in a past life." And then it would go back to Falun Gong and it would be a whole lecture.
All right. So actually, it's quite, yeah, there's not much going around Falun Gong actually when you are interacting with the members itself, because every single thing will be related somehow. Yeah, relate something to karma is quite easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
everything we do is karma, like, right? But
Yeah.
to make a whole point of it all the time is quite exhausting, I think. But that's, I think that's also the part that actually will ingrain or will root the beliefs of Falun Gong even stronger in the people, right? So it's harder for them to leave.
Right.
It's but now that you are out of it and you see your parents, I can imagine you don't talk much about Falun Gong because I've seen your videos and I can imagine that they're not really what your parents would talk about. So it's quite conflicting message that the two of you would have.
Yeah, yeah. Well, since my mom got cancer, it's been a little bit less of Falun Gong and more of her health. So we don't really talk about Falun Gong as much anymore because what she's doing, getting cancer treatment, is in contradiction to
Yeah.
what we've believed our whole life, that she doesn't need cancer treatment. It's just a test. So because of that, we're less invested in Falun Gong now.
Oh, well, that's a good thing. Uh,
Yeah,
Very sorry to hear that she is so sick though.
yeah.
Um, so now that you are away from Falun Gong, are there times that you are like still maybe somehow want to go back because it is kind of a big part of your life? Yeah, it's very familiar with your life, right?
Yeah, I miss the feeling of having that kind of community. I remember when I used to believe that it was like a big family, but I realized that it's not. Everybody is just focusing on themselves and self-cultivation. It has nothing to do with community or family or anything like that. I guess like the childlike innocence that I had of thinking that way, I do miss, but I would never go back because of just how time consuming it all was and like manipulative it was. I wouldn't consider going back ever.
Yeah. Uh, Yeah, I never considered or being a part of Falun Gong either, but now that I heard the story, I definitely it's not my thing, but for each their own. Um, so uh, can we go back to the Epoch Times because I think that was
Oh
the
yeah.
part that forgot to record. Let's see, yeah.
Yeah, sure. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right. Awesome. So the Epoch Times is a newspaper company run by Falun Gong, and it initially was meant to be a newspaper company that reported on news in China and it was anti-Chinese government. Eventually, it shifted towards being very pro-Trump because Trump is anti-China. And since the Chinese government banned Falun Gong, one of Falun Gong's main missions is to attack the Chinese Communist Party and to get rid of it. So that's what Epoch Times is for.
Right. So I understand that they are really, really anti China or anti-communist party more, right?
Mhm.
What is it that they want for China? I mean, if you get rid of one thing, you need to have something else in place, right? So what is their belief that they want instead of the CPC?
That's not exactly discussed within Falun Gong, but I'm assuming that they would want something like a democratic government. They don't care so much for communism whatsoever.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
want something like the rest of the world that accepts Falun Gong because Falun Gong is only banned in China and of course North Korea. So that's what
Is
they
it
would
only
want.
those countries? Because there's a lot of other countries where you're not allowed to have cults either, right?
Yeah, but I
But
believe
maybe they're not registered there.
yeah, Falun Gong is only considered a cult in China.
All right.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. I don't know if you know the story about why they are banned in China.
Um, so there are rumors that the cult leader had his members like cut open their stomachs for the wheel and set themselves on fire. What the information that we are told as members is that the Chinese government was jealous of the amount of support that Falun Gong was getting. And because, of course, the Chinese government wants everyone to believe in them and not some random religion, they decided to ban Falun Gong.
Right. Yeah. It's a little bit different than
Yeah.
I hear from other sources.
Yeah.
So they believe that the Communist Party became jealous and therefore they banned him. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's quite. I hear a lot of. It's yeah, I do a lot of political stuff, right? So I hear
Mhm.
I this is a very very typical thing what they are often use in the West in politics. Like also with not only with China but also with Russia. Putin is jealous, therefore he's doing that. Uh,
Yeah.
he might have other reasons. I mean, he's a politician. He's not. What has his emotions to do with running his country? But you see a lot of these kind of things. That's why often when I hear things like this about big leaders, oh yeah, they're jealous. I'm like, yeah, there must be something else going on. Uh, but there is this thing. There's a lot of Chinese people in Falun Gong, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's
how do
mostly
they reconcile with because don't they have family in China?
yeah, yeah. So most people don't go back to China after they come out of China and practice Falun Gong. They don't go back, especially if they are very public about
Hmm.
speaking out against the Chinese Communist Party. Like people like my mom who were on TV talking about the CCP in a negative way are very afraid to go back to China,
Right.
despite having family there. Yeah.
But I mean, uh, is your mother coming from China itself, or was she born in the States,
Oh yeah,
or
she came
somewhere
from
else?
China.
But
Yeah.
then how do these people then feel about you're actually fighting against where you're coming from? You're literally trying to take down the government.
Yeah, they're not
It's
they say they're not against the Chinese people, they're against the government, and they make that distinction. They believe that
right.
the Chinese government is poisoning the people of China, hence why they thought that making people quit the Communist Party was equal to saving them. So they think that the Chinese government is actually doing harm to the people there.
Right, but doing harm in what way? What is their perspective on it?
So they think that like in elementary school, like Chinese students are supposed to do like an oath to the Chinese government, kind of like a pledge of allegiance, and
Yeah.
that is like a sworn oath. And because they do that, they are now like basically making a deal with the devil. So we thought that the Chinese government was a demon coming after
Oh,
Falun.
wow. Like in
Yeah.
a religious way
Yeah.
or like in just how do you say just in talking manner? Because there's a
Oh,
difference, right?
in a
Like
religious.
in a
Yeah. So this is
like really like a demon from hell.
not exactly a demon from hell. We called it like the old forces. So there are like older gods who are against saving people because they think that people are not worthy of being saved. And so these people are against Falun Gong because Falun Gong is doing the amazing job of saving all of humanity. And so these old gods that are basically like demons are fighting against the gods in another dimension, and in human form, they are the Chinese Communist Party.
It's quite interesting. I never knew that. I hear that it's almost like I'm watching a cartoon. Like like I don't know. I can figure like a manga or something like that where they're fighting each other. Like I
Yeah,
never knew that they saw it that way. I always thought they were angry with the Communist Party because they've been banned. I didn't
yeah,
know
yeah,
there was this whole demon thing with it. That's it's actually quite interesting because uh, so they say they are the old guard that doesn't want to change and don't want to save those people, and the Falun Gong wants to save those people. That's
yeah,
very interesting because it's actually in communist ideology and Marxist ideology, it's actually quite the opposite of way of thinking because they are against the reactionary, which are the old guard that doesn't want to change, and they see themselves as progressive.
yeah, yeah.
So I mean, when
Exactly.
it's come to
Yeah.
ideology, it's very very funny how others view it in their way and how others view themselves in a certain way. So we were at the Communist Party. I find it so fascinating that I'm so intrigued by this whole story. Uh, I didn't expect this. This is this is something that I really didn't expect. So basically, uh, but if they, uh, I if they need to have a plan if they want to take out the Communist Party. I mean, what would happen to China if all of a sudden the Communist Party isn't there?
Yeah, well,
So
they
how?
don't care about that very much.
Oh, wow.
There are plenty of political activists within China and outside of China who are also against the Communist Party
Yeah, yeah,
and
quite a
have
bit.
a
Yeah.
plan. And so I guess they're sort of just leaving it up to them and hoping that whoever comes in next will allow Falun Gong to prosper in China again.
Yeah, like the United States.
Yes.
That's, I don't think that's a good idea if they come into China again. Yeah, that's quite interesting because they have never read the history of China,
Oh, of course.
the
Many of them are
modern
Chinese
history.
who, yeah.
So they would know what would happen if there's no government.
Yeah, of course.
or a
But
weak
believe
government.
that they believe that Master Lee has a plan.
He's got a plan. That's yeah. He brings in some angels.
Yeah.
It's I'm still confused about that whole story about the demons. I almost cannot believe it. Do the people really believe that?
Yeah, definitely.
Wow, I'm just a little bit taken back by this. Like, I didn't expect this. Yeah. Uh, yeah, but still, they have family over there, and uh, if they're not going back, they don't see their family unless their family is coming to them,
Yeah.
or only on a camera like we are speaking now. But so they have no feelings like, oh yeah, if we take out the government, maybe things turn really bad for the people.
Yeah.
It's,
I think their main goal is to get rid of the Communist Party. That's it.
that's it.
They don't
Yeah.
care really what happens next, as long as the Communist Party is out.
Wow, that's quite contradicting because if you really want to save people, you should have a plan in place to,
Yeah,
do some mass saving.
yeah.
But
They're less concerned about people and more about the spirituality of people. Saving them spiritually is more important than saving them physically, if that makes sense.
yeah, yes, but taking bringing hardship doesn't really help with spiritual development.
Yeah,
It would be better if they would all have the time to get into a cave and meditate if they want to have that spiritual development. But if you
yeah,
take it from them, then there's nothing to be spiritual about.
yeah.
But yeah, uh, it's quite an interesting story. Do you have a message, like to people? How can they identify a cult like this? Because yeah, for you it's quite a little bit different because you were a kid when you came in, so it is because of your parents. But
Yeah.
from people from outside, because I see a lot of times they have their little stand in front of a Chinese shop in
Mhm.
our center here, uh, uh, trying to attract people, but also having people to sign up against the CPC. And sometimes they work together with the Tibetan group or the 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 Uyghur group. Well, they're not real Uyghurs, but uh, how what can you say about it? Like how people should react with on that, like not to be pulled into a cult. Also, maybe for maybe not specifically Falun Gong, but also maybe for to identify another cult, so people will not make the mistake to be trapped into.
Yeah. Well, it's very hard to see a cult for what it is when you are first getting into it. It can be literally anything. It can be a job, a yoga class, acting class, anything like that. But I think the most important thing is to be skeptical of everything, to question it and think critically about it. And if someone is telling you that what you are doing, questioning, is wrong, then that's when you really need to look into it a little bit more and think for yourself rather than just blindly believing what they're telling you.
Yeah. And for the people who are maybe trying to find the right word, uh, trapped, but that sounds a little bit harsh, but you know what I mean, right? Into a cult, uh, the process to get out of it. What should they do?
Well, of course, it varies from cult to cult. But I think being financially independent is really important. having people around you who are not in the cult and are willing to help you is very important as well. Having faith in yourself and being confident that you will be able to make it without this group of people who say they want the best for you, but really can't even help themselves because they're so deep into it, is important as well. So those are the three things I think are the most necessary to get out of a cult.
So actually, I want to go back a little bit to how it works in the cult. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit messy. I'm always
worry.
like that. I have ADHD, you know.
Oh, it's
My
okay.
mind is, and I don't take any meds, not because of any religion, but I get crazy when I'm on meds. It doesn't feel good for me. When you are, let's say you have a meeting with other people, but you have some doubt, like uh maybe about uh the aliens or whatever, and you just bring it to the table like, hey, I really don't think that my iPhone is made by this dude from Mars.
Yeah.
How is it allowed, or are they really like uh jumping on you, or like, hey, what are you doing? Or what are you
Oh, well,
saying, like?
yeah. Master Lee had the perfect manipulation tactic for people who are doubting, which is he said that any thoughts of doubt or any negative thoughts you have about the cult or Master Lee himself were not your own thoughts. That's karma. And that is something that needs to be gotten rid of. So, yeah, that's essentially like an illness that you need to cure yourself of. And that is a test. Your doubt is a test. It is karma, not your own thoughts.
Wait, he says the doubt is your karma,
Yes.
but karma comes from your own, at least in Buddhism. So to me, it's quite confusing. Like, I don't know how you guys practice karma, because I have no idea. I've never read any book of Falun Gong, so
Mm.
I really don't know. So to me, when we talk about karma, everything what you do, every action that you take is a part of your karma. It's
Yeah.
always is from you. It's never from something outside of you.
It's something like that. It's kind of like sort of like a point system. So karma is what you accrue when you do bad things. So having desires and maybe like hitting someone, saying something bad about someone, that is karma. And we also have something called virtue, which is when you do good things, you gain virtue. And when you suffer through cultivation, you get rid of karma. So that's sort of what it is
So
for us.
in Falun Gong, karma is actually always the negative part.
Yes.
So it's separated, a
Yes.
negative and a positive part.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, in Buddhism, it is just one.
I
Whatever
see.
you do, you get a karma imprint on one of the mental formations, and that's what you bring in your next reincarnation. So that's why, to me, when I hear it, like, what do they mean? it's
Oh,
it's
yeah,
it's so
yeah.
different, right?
Yeah, so we thought that karma is just it's a physical matter. That's what we thought it was. So karma is a physical matter that is in another dimension. It's described to be a black substance in
Like,
your body.
oh,
Yeah.
like
And it's
something
something bad.
else which should not be in your body.
Yeah.
So like maybe like a sort of form of demon or something, which is like you have the bad and the good, which wants to possess you or something like that, or
Yeah, it's not like a demon though, because it's not like a conscious being. It's just something that exists and is a result of you doing something bad.
right. That's quite a big difference from Buddhism, from karma in Buddhism. It's like totally something else. The name is only the name is the same. In Buddhism, it is like from everything. It is whether you do good or bad, it gives karma. The
I
only
see.
difference is one gives you bad karma, the other one gives you good karma, right? And you can by doing good and trying to be very sorry about what you did bad and trying to change that, you can remove your bad karma and and bring that to the next time that you reincarnate. But it's quite different, yeah, because so it has nothing to do with you as a person yourself. That's a huge difference, because in Buddhism it is actually literally a part of you. You cannot have karma of somebody else. There's something
Mm,
like collective karma, like a whole group of people start unaliving people. Yeah, you will
mm,
get a collective karma if you're taking part in it, even when you don't unalive a person. But uh, you, yeah, it is mainly about the intention what you have before you start an action,
that's
right?
interesting.
So uh, if you, for me, it is like if we're standing on a building and you see I'm almost falling off, but you're trying to save me, but accidentally push me. You're not getting the karma of a murderer because you were
Yeah,
trying to save me,
yeah,
right? Yeah, that's the intention was not to murder me, but also vice versa. If the intention was to murder me, but you by accident saved me, you're not getting the karma of somebody who saved me, but you're also not getting the karma of a murderer because the action wasn't completed.
yeah.
So it's
Okay.
only partly. Karma is quite difficult to understand. I studied it for quite a while, and I still
Mhm.
feel like I'm only at the very beginning level. It's so complicated, but it's very interesting to see how you guys or not, well, how Falun Gong members think about it. It's quite different than from what we learn.
Right.
Yeah, uh, yeah. I keep thinking of the Communist Party being demons. That's uh, is there also some written things about that? Like,
Yeah,
is the I mean, when you get into Falun Gong, it's mainly main thing that people come in, I suppose, is like for the health beneficial and the religious part, right?
yeah.
But they are also very politically active. Is that also in the book, like integrated into the religion side, or is because
Ye-
yeah,
well, well, we're Falun Gong is not supposed to be politically affiliated. In the book, he specifically says that Falun Gong is not participating in any political activities. So it's a little bit contradictory to what Epoch Times and, of course, Shen Yun are doing
yeah,
right now. But um, they see it as more of a spiritual thing than political. Like, as I said before, the Chinese Communist Party is a demon set on destroying the efforts of Falun Gong practitioners trying to save humanity. And so by defeating the Communist Party, they are defeating the demon. So it's not a political event, it's a spiritual event. That's how they would view it. Yes.
that's amazing. I think yeah. If the people would see this from the Communist Party, I think they would laugh really hard. Like, whoa, we're demons now. Was that it? Was that it? We could have let them stay. We should have let them stay. No,
Yeah.
it's really interesting. I never heard that part. Yeah, as I said, I really thought that because they were banned, that's why they're so really pissed off. I know there was something going on beforehand, and yeah,
Yeah.
the members in China seem to have done some pretty harsh things to themselves. And yeah,
Hmm.
that's the reason why they actually got banned, because it's quite dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, that's what their version is. It's quite a different version than Falun Gong.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah, the whole demon thing was actually portrayed in Shen Yun a couple years ago. In one of the dances, they had like a red dragon come down to Earth, and that was like the symbol of communism
Oh,
coming to Earth. And so that was personified using that dragon. For people who did see Shen Yun, they would probably know what I'm talking about, but yeah.
wow, that's so interesting. Uh, and the thing with Trump, how is it going now? How do they view Trump? Is it
Um,
does he also now have some spiritual background given because I mean I can imagine if you make the CPC members demons then and you love Trump, maybe he became an angel or what? I don't know. I mean
yeah. It was for a time, Falun Gong members thought that Trump was um a savior sent by Master Lee to defeat the Communist Party in China, but Master Lee eventually had to like make them quiet down, and he put out an article saying, please don't put any politicians up on a pedestal because that's not very good. He's just a human. He's not even a Falun Gong member. You can't put him on a pedestal like that. But what he is doing is a good thing, but he is not a god, is what he said essentially.
well, I'm sure if his master Lee wants to give him a title of a god, that I'm sure that Trump would join. God Trump.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the Christians who are pro-Trump would be very supportive of him
I think
becoming.
the Trump supporters wouldn't really mind. Yeah, the political landscape, it's very polarized and it's really, really weird nowadays in the United States and also here in the Netherlands. We almost similar like in the United States when it comes to polarizing and almost like idolizing a party or a president, right? So the people following Trump are idolizing him, right?
Mhm.
That and whatever he does, it's fine. He can
Yeah,
commit a crime, they will make an excuse, and when the other one does it, they have to jump on it, and vice versa, right? It's not only on the Trump side, but it's also on the side of the Democrats. They're almost like religious.
yeah,
What I've seen, it's and in the Netherlands we have the same thing now, right?
yeah,
You're either here or there, not understanding that both parties are working together. So it really doesn't matter which part you are, but it works good for garnering harvesting votes, right? It works very well. But yeah, so I really don't think they would mind if Trump becomes get a nice god title from Master Lee and
oh,
well, at least he can have something to say more on his rallies. So
yeah,
now it would be fun. At least it makes sense that he survived the attempt on his life, right?
yeah,
Because he's an angel or he's God. It was God's
yeah,
will.
that's
uh,
right. That's what people are saying.
so how uh, how do the because I can imagine the people how do they relate with their family who are not in Falun Gong?
Oh yeah, well, it's pretty normal. Like I had family members who weren't in Falun Gong. Of course, there were times when my mom would try to get them to practice and it wouldn't work, and we just carried on as usual. Usually my family members would say that they are practicing to help my mom feel a little bit better, but my mom would be like, "Oh, when was the last time you read the book?" And they would be like, "Oh, 2 months ago." And that would be a little bit awkward, but other than that, there wasn't much conflict.
But there was never times like they would tell you like, hey, don't take it too serious, or maybe you're a little bit too much on it.
Um, Yeah, there were times when I remember as a kid, my family members would try to argue with my mom about it. But of course that didn't work very well. So eventually it was just decided like that's something that we don't talk about. It's kind of like politics. We don't talk about it if we disagree about it.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, it figures most families never talk about politics, including mine. I've never talked with any politics with my father. It was only about school and making money. That's it.
Yeah, there you go.
Is there anything else that you want to say? And also can you send me all your where they can find you so I can add it and everything?
Oh yeah, so it's just my TikTok. It's at workplace_doodles. That's it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You
just
only have the TikTok where they can follow you. You have no YouTube or anything else that you are.
yeah, I'm not posting anything currently on YouTube or anything.
Okay.
I am on Twitter. It's the same handle as well. I'm not posting anything there either, but I am following a lot of ex Falun Gong members who also have very interesting platforms and a lot to say about their own experiences too. So I repost some of their posts as well if people are interested in that. Um, I'm not on YouTube or anything else because Falun Gong members don't really use TikTok because they think it's run by the Chinese
Yeah.
government. So I
Yeah.
get less harassment on there if I post only on TikTok. So that's what I'm
That's
doing.
good for you, young lady. That's very good for you because I had some problems with people from Dalai Lama.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
yeah. The first death threat was from one of them.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Careful.
No, it's fine. I mean, I'm actually from the same school.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, yeah. My teacher is his used to be his cultural advisor.
Oh. Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm
Pretty strong
initiated by
ties,
them.
man.
I also have the Buddhist name, right? Tenzin Chogyal. But I'm not in
Mm,
the Sangha anymore because I became a little bit more, was more interested in politics things. And I started to, because my nature, I love history. So I was studying a lot of Chinese history, but also with the, how do you call it, with the politics things.
mm,
I was starting to study on what happened in Tibet, and I thought, yeah, I don't want to be a part of that.
mm. Oh, I see.
It's very conflicting with Buddhism.
I see.
So I started, but then I posted, but yeah, I was just posting very mildly, right? And then I got some death threats, and I made a video about it, giving him a lesson in Buddhism.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's bad for your karma. Don't do it.
Yeah, yeah,
So you are very lucky that they're not on TikTok
yeah.
because not having that kind of experience. Yeah, I have it. If I don't know why these people are so mad at me because normally in Buddhism, even our teacher says, even if the communists come inside of our temple, we should teach them about Buddhism. That's our job,
Yeah, that's the same for Falun
right?
Gong too.
But yeah, somehow the not all the members seem not to agree. I don't know in the Sangha where I was, nobody cares about politics, to be honest, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was quite interesting. Thank you for sharing your story. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you want to say?
Oh no, that's it. You got almost everything out of me.
Yeah, I'm sorry it was really, really messy.
Oh,
Uh,
don't worry.
because I don't have much of an understanding and I didn't want to read too much about it because then I will become influenced and yeah. No, I'm not, I don't mean influenced by Falun Gong, but now I can let you have the whole story without me interrupting too much, without having,